Morning, it's Josh, Mass Gunworks. I've had a couple of my viewers, which thank you guys so much for subscribing and leaving comments. It means a lot to me. I'm kind of new at this, the YouTube stuff, and it's just encouraging to getting messages to see the comments and the subscriptions and everything in my email. So keep it coming. I love teaching. Love exchanging emails with you guys, so feel free to contact me anytime. So anyway, I had a viewer send me a couple questions, and I'm not going to use this viewer's name because I haven't asked their permission, but I wanted to take a chance to answer their questions on video, because I'm sure that some of you have also had some similar questions and just never thought to ask. So the biggest question I always get, and this is one that this viewer asked, was how did I get involved in gunsmithing? So the answer to that is I have grown up around firearms since I was very young. My father, he hunted, fished, did a lot of hillbilly gunsmithing with a hand drill and a file on his own rifles. My grandfather was in the Marine Corps, and I'm not real sure what he did, but it involved precision shooting. And he's also one that taught me how to shoot and take care of guns. When I got started working at one of the fire departments I used to work at, one of the guys there was the gunsmith, and I expressed some interest, and he said, well, just come do an apprenticeship. So I did. On my off days, I would go work in his shop, and days that I was at work, we were on the same truck for a while, same firehouse, so we just sat around and talked about guns and stuff like that. Another contributing factor to this, when I was in high school, I took machine trades, and I learned how to use a metal lathe and milling machine, weld, and do metal work. And that is a big part of what I do, but you do not have to have, I'll turn the camera a bit, you do not have to have a machine shop to be a gunsmith, okay? The majority of the tools that I use most of the time are hanging on the wall behind me. I got some hammers, wrenches, Allen wrenches. This is a set of jeweler files that I purchased from Lowe's. I have a little stand here that I built with punches and files and again, pliers, wrenches, punches, files. So the majority of the stuff I do, I use hand tools for. Yes, I do things like barrel threading, custom rifle building, and stuff like that that does require some specialized machinery that I have over there. But the majority of what I do, I use hand tools for. So if you're a mechanically inclined person and you like taking stuff apart and putting it back together, you can start doing this. I would encourage you to start with your guns, because if you screw it up, it's your fault and you're the one paying for it. You're not going to have a customer yelling at you. And then I would move up to maybe getting a friend or relative saying, hey, I'm doing this. Do you mind if I just take your gun apart and clean it for you? Okay. A lot of what I do is cleaning. So I'll take guns apart and clean them because somebody says, well, my grandpa's 22, he isn't shooting right. Well, okay. 9 times out of 10 it's because it's really dirty and they've never cleaned it, and there's some gack and some crevices that shouldn't be there that are preventing the firearm from functioning properly. So that's a broad spectrum answer to that, how I got started. The next question that I get a lot is, well, what kind of stuff do I need to get started? Well, I just covered a lot of the tools. Okay, again, screwdrivers, punches, files, hammers, wrenches. Patience. A lot of patience. Another thing you're going to need to get is your federal firearms license. So in the United States, it is okay, depending on what state you live in, to transfer, meaning give, a firearm from one person to another person without having to go through an FFL. Okay, that's something that varies state to state. I'm in Indiana. Indiana, we're allowed to, meet in the Walmart parking lot at lunch and sell guns back and forth to each other. Now, the caveat to that, because I know some of you are probably shaking your head thinking that we're cave people, the caveat to that is I have to do my due diligence and make sure that the person that I'm selling this gun to is not a felon or a what they call denied party, and that's verbiage that the ATF uses. So a denied party, quick aside, is someone who is legally not allowed to own a firearm. Okay, typically it's going to be someone that has a felony or a history of domestic battery, illegal alien, people that you probably wouldn't want having a firearm to begin with. And I know that there's a whole slew of arguments for or against that based on the Constitution. I'm not going to get into that. I have my own opinions. I'm not going to get into that. But these are the laws. This is the country we live in, and if we want to stay out of jail, we got to follow the law. So, because you are in business and you're making a profit off of what you're doing, you have to have a business license, number one. And number two, because you're working with firearms for profit, you have to have a federal firearms license. If you do not have those things, you will go to jail. Okay? Eventually, somebody's going to say something to the wrong person. The ATF's going to knock on your door, and you're going to have to explain yourself. So, getting your FFL, that's another question I get. How do I get my FFL? So, typically what you're going to have to do, you're going to have to start at your local level. You're going to have to go to your county council or your city council, whatever governing body is over the area that you live in. I live out in the country. I live in an area that doesn't have a lot of large urban centers. I think we got one city. So I'm under a township government. Okay, so I had to go to my county council and find out, what do I need to do to start business? Okay, and I had to get a license from the state of Indiana. I had to get another license from the county I live in, and then I had to wait on them to do a property assessment to see what zone my area was in. And my home is in an area that's zoned agriculture, so that puts me in a different group for business licenses. I think it was actually a little easier for me to get a business license. So it's a lot of legalese that I don't understand or care about right now. After that's done, okay, there's this wonderful website called ffl123.com. There's other ones out there like rocketffl.com. FFL123 is just the one that I chose to go with. Okay, it's $50 a year. If you're thinking about it, it is well worth it. And I would highly recommend them. I would also highly recommend Rocket FFL. These two websites specifically, they're guys that have gone through the process, and they work with a lawyer or a couple lawyers, and they just help you go step by step through the process of getting your FFL. They tell you what paperwork you need to have done, in what order, and who you need to call if you need to call for questions. It made my life a lot easier. It helped me know what to say and what not to say, what I was required to say, and what information it was best if I just didn't disclose unless I was directly asked by a county council person. Because the world we live in today, guns are not an appreciated thing. It really depends on where you live. So they're not encouraging you to lie. What they're doing is helping you understand that it's just best if my local and state level doesn't ask if I'm making popsicles, they don't need to know I'm making popsicles. It's none of their business. So anyway, the FFL, you send in your application, you have to get fingerprinted. When you go to get fingerprinted, go to your local sheriff's department. If you don't have a sheriff's department because you live in Canada or somewhere outside the U.S., go to your local law enforcement official and say, hey, I'm looking at doing this. I need to get fingerprints. And odds are, if you live elsewhere, there's probably a different licensing process that you have to go through. But there's going to be some legal hoops you have to jump through either way. But for the United States, typically you're going to have to go to your local sheriff's department, get fingerprinted, and they're going to have a special card that they'll send you. Use their card. Don't use another card. The ATF is very picky and specific, and they don't like it when you go outside the box that they've told you to color in. So use the card they send you. You have to get fingerprinted. You'll send your fingerprints, your application, and your application fee in. There are about 11 or 12 different types of FFL that you can apply for. You need to make sure that you're applying for the one that most appropriately fits what you're doing. If you're in gun sales, so you have a shop and you're selling stuff, you're probably going to be in like a type 1 or type 2. If you're dealing with firearms that are older than 50 years old, okay, you're in what's called a curio and relic. And I believe that is a type 3 or a type 6. I have a type 7, which allows me to manufacture. So that means I can build one of these out of a naked block of aluminum, stamp the serial number on it, and sell it to my neighbor. Totally legal. I have a license for that. There's a lot of paperwork I have to do to track what I made, but as long as I do what I'm supposed to do, it's okay. So you send in your paperwork and your application fee. Typically it takes a couple months. You'll get a letter back in the mail saying that, you know, this was accepted or it wasn't. You'll get a phone call from an ATF agent. They come and they do a visit with you in your home or at your proposed business place. And then they spend about 2 hours. They just ask you some questions. They also walk you through things like understanding, like, this is why this firearm is classified this way, this is why this is classified this way, this is what determines a rifle, shotgun, pistol, this is what an SBR is and what it looks like, this is what an NFA item is, this is what a suppressor is. They want to make sure that you understand the ins and outs of the legal end of it. That way you don't get jammed up. Okay. The guy that I've met with is great. I don't have a bad thing to say about him. He was a good person, good individual, and he was very helpful and informative. And in the 3 years that I've had my FFL, if I've ever had a question or an issue, all I had to do was call. I had someone trying to run a scam at one point, and I was able to call and give that information to him, and probably helped out a lot of